Hello. Today my name is Kyle Shun, and today we will try to solve an issue called gun violence in our country, and it's call to action. So, um, gun violence in the U.S. is a very severe issue that requires immediate action to reduce gun-related deaths through stricter gun laws and better enforcement. Every day, 100 people in the United States are killed by guns. In the time it takes for me to give this speech, several more families will be devastated by the consequences of gun violence. Researching the effects of gun violence on our society, I've seen the toll it takes on families and communities. I've also studied policy proposals and examined global approaches to reducing gun violence. Gun violence is one of the most pressing issues we face today in America, and it demands urgent attention. First, I'll expand the impact of gun violence it has in our country, and next, I will explore the causes of gun violence and why current laws are insufficient. Then, I will present solutions focusing on stricter gun laws, improving background checks, and community-based interventions to reduce the epidemic of gun violence. So now that we understand the magnitude of this problem, let's first examine the extent of gun violence in the U.S. So first, let's take a look at the staggering numbers of impact, as we can see here with this graph on the top left. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, there are more than 45,000 gun-related deaths in 2020 alone, as you can see in this graph. That includes homicides, suicides, and accidental shootings. Every year, families lose their loved ones to acts of violence that could have been prevented. In addition to the loss of life, CDC says that the gun violence contributes to the psychological trauma of survivors in the communities, costing billions in healthcare, law enforcement, and lost productivity. It's an epidemic that affects every demographic, every region of this country, and from urban centers to small towns. To summarize, gun violence in the US is just not a statistical issue only. It's also a crisis that tears in at the fabric of our society and brings untold grief to families across the nation. So, what is causing this rampant gun violence, and why our current laws are failing us to prevent this epidemic to spread? So let's explore the causes of gun violence and why the laws we have in place are just not enough to address it. The causes of gun violence and inadequacy of current laws. There are several factors that contribute to gun violence in America. One key issue is the easy access to firearms, even by individuals who have been convicted of violent crimes and have serious health conditions. The Gun Violence Archive reports that in 2023, there were over 600 mass shootings, and yet we still have no uniform national law to reduce or to regulate gun ownership and reduce gun violence. In states like Texas and Florida, open carry laws and the lack of background checks have made it easier for people to obtain firearms with little to no scrutiny. In fact, a study by the National Institute of Justice found that nearly 1 in 3 gun purchases in the US are made without a background check. When I say that, the current patchwork of gun laws allows people who are legally prohibited from owning a firearm to easily bypass regulations and acquire guns, contributing to an ongoing cycle of violence without comprehensive reforms. These gaps in the system will continue to cost lives. So, as we can see, the root causes of gun violence are multifaceted, but much of it comes down to a lack of consistent and comprehensive laws to prevent dangerous individuals from obtaining firearms. But there is hope. By implementing effective, proven solutions, we can drastically reduce gun violence and protect our families. And again, just looking at this graph I have on my Google slideshow here, there's just so many mass shootings that have occurred everywhere in America. Not even one spot is free. So let's take a look at the solutions that can help turn the tide in the fight against gun violence. Our final main point is to reduce some solutions that could reduce gun violence. One of the most effective ways to address gun violence is through stricter gun laws. According to the National Institute of Justice, we need to enact universal background checks for all gun purchases, including private sales, gun shows, whatever you name it. This measure would prevent people with criminal backgrounds or mental health issues from purchasing firearms. This is a given because if someone is a criminal with criminal records, they're more bound to have more aggressive thoughts, and just the easy access to purchasing guns is just giving them an easy way to harm or hurt other people. Second, according to the National Institute of Justice, we need to ban assault weapons and high capacity magazines. These types of weapons were designed for military use, not civilian use, and have no place in civilian life. In fact, after the 1994 assault weapons ban was enacted, gun massacres involving these weapons decreased dramatically. As we can see here on this graph, assault weapons ban passed in 1994. As you can see, um, there was like very little gun violence, but then after it was expired in 2004, we could see a rise and just a rise of actually let me go this way, a rise of a rise of gun violence. Finally, we need community-based prevention programs that have been proven to reduce violence. According to the Washington Post, programs like Operation Peacemaker, Fellowship in Richmond, California, and Cure Violence in Chicago have shown success in addressing the root causes of violence by engaging local communities, offering support to those at risk, and building trust with law enforcement. By enacting stricter gun laws, expanding background checks, and investing in community based violence prevention, we can begin to stem the tide of gun violence that is sweeping our nation. To recap, gun violence in the US is a crisis that is costing thousands of lives every year. It is caused by a lack of effective regulations, easy access to firearms, and gaps in our current system. And investing in community based programs, we can dramatically reduce gun violence and save lives. Gun violence has become a national emergency, and it's time we took action. The lives of countless Americans depend on it. We have the power to create a safer future, and let's rise to the occasion for the sake of our families, our communities, and our country. It's time to act. Thank you.